Adam Lanza, referred to as the shooter from this point on, parks his car near the fire lane. He is already dressed in his gear, which includes 2 pistols and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. The shooter exits his car and walks over to the passenger side door, discarding a jacket on his way over. The shooter takes his weapon, the Bushmaster XM15, out of the car. He ejects a live round and discards another jacket. In his Bushmaster, he has 2 magazines duct taped together for quick reloading. The shooter then turns and heads towards the front of the school. The shooter fires 8 rounds through a glass window near the front doors. 3 women, Dawn Hawksprung, Natalie Hammond, and Mary Sherlock, who were in a meeting further down the hall, notice the shooting and exit their conference room. The shooter notices them and fires shots at them, killing Sherlock and Hawksprung and wounding Hammond. As the shooter enters the office, Hammond crawls back to the conference room. The shooter briefly enters the nurse's office but turns back around. Nobody was injured in the office area. The shooter turns back up the hall and fires at the bodies of Sherlock and Hawksprung. As the shooter goes farther down the hallway, he passes by Classroom 12, thinking nobody is in there. The shooter stops in front of the conference room, firing his Glock 10mm pistol near the door, likely testing it for his later suicide. However, the gun jams after firing. The shooter goes into Classroom 10, moving towards the windows. He fires 4 shots at teacher Victoria Soto with the Bushmaster. At this point, he runs out of ammunition. As the shooter reloads, student Jesse Lewis yells for his classmates to run. 9 run out of the door, and 2 run into the restroom. The shooter turns his magazine over and fires 1 shot at Lewis, killing him. The shooter turns towards the other staff and students in the room, shooting all 29 rounds and killing teacher Ann Murphy and students Allison Wyatt, Abiel Richmond, and Dylan Hockley, as well as fatally wounding Olivia Engel. The shooter reloads, dropping his magazine on the ground and ejecting 1 live round onto the floor. He then leaves the classroom. The shooter goes into Classroom 8, where the 16 students are being corralled into the small restroom by 2 teachers. The shooter turns and fires all 29 rounds at the students and staff. The shooter then reloads, ejecting a live round, and continues firing, shooting 19 rounds at the students and staff. At this point, the shooter's weapon suffers a failure to feed, where the ammunition is improperly feeding into the weapon. The shooter then discards the magazine with 10 rounds still in it to combat this, and inserts another one. The shooter fires 17 more rounds at the students and staff, discards the magazine with 13 rounds left, and loads another one. The shooter fires 15 more rounds at an almost point-blank distance, and then leaves the classroom. The shooter fired 80 rounds of ammunition in under 2 minutes, and killed students Charlotte Bacon, Daniel Barden, Josephine Gay, Anna Marquez Green, Madeline Sue, Catherine Hubbard, Chase Kowalski, James Medioli, Grace McDonald, Emily Parker, Jack Pinto, Noah Posner, and Caroline Previty, fatally injured Ben Wheeler, and killed substitute teacher Lauren Rousseau and teacher Rachel Diavino. The shooter then follows the same pattern, go to the next classroom farther down the hallway, but his weapon is overheated and it isn't working. He ejects 4 live rounds onto the floor in an effort to fix it, then drops the magazine, leaving 11 rounds in it. The shooter then goes back down the hallway and re-enters Classroom 10. The shooter moves towards the bathroom and inserts another magazine. He fires 15 rounds at the windows, hitting parked cars and furnishings, but not injuring anyone. The weapon again suffers a failure to feed, and, annoyed, the shooter throws it on the ground. The shooter pulls out the Glock 10mm pistol, which is jammed from earlier, and ejects 4 live rounds onto the ground, clearing the jam after ejecting the 4th. The shooter then puts the pistol up to the back of his head and fires upwards, killing himself and jamming the gun.